So here we have the three little piggy story, and we have all of our function definitions at the top, and down at the bottom we have our function calls. Right? Let me go ahead and put here function calls, and then up at the top I could put a comment and say function definitions. Okay, so this is a way that we can very clearly organize our code, right? Because what we can do is take a look at the bottom portion where we have our function calls, and we could say, oh, okay, well, we have the intro print out, then we talk about the first piggy, then we talk about the second piggy, and then we talk about the third piggy. And then when I run my code and I look at my console down here, I could say, hey, wait a second, there is a problem with the portion of the story that talks about the first piggy. Well, now when I go back to my code to fix that problem, I don't need to look through all of the code and try to find out where that part of the story is or that part of the program is. What I need to do is say, okay, well, it's part of the first piggy, so it must be here in the first piggy function definition. So I'm going to go up here to the first piggy function definition, and I'm going to look for my problem here, not everywhere. Right? I'm not going to look in throughout the entire program. I'm just going to look in this function definition to fix the problem. So by using function definitions and function calls, we can make our code more organized and make it easier to read, not just for yourself, but also to anyone else that might be working on your program with you. So now let's go ahead and take a look at writing efficient code that follows the mantra of write once, read many times. Okay. Here we're going to create a function definition that performs a certain job. So let's come over here and click on functions, say new, Python file. Let's call this greater than. And we're going to create a program that figures out if a number is greater than or less than 0. Okay, so we've done this before. So the way it works is we say num is equal to input. Inside of the input, we're going to say enter a number, and we'll do that. And then we're going to have an if statement, right? And the if statement is going to say if num is greater than 0, then we're going to print out, ooh, I don't need the parentheses. Okay. Then we're going to print out the number you entered is greater, or maybe we could say is positive. And we could say else print the number you entered is negative. Okay. And of course we do have the case if what if the number they enter in is 0, and if it's 0 then this won't be true, and it'll print out the number you entered is negative, right? But we don't want that. So what about if we say here enter a non-zero number, or maybe I could say enter a number that is not 0. So that way it's either going to be negative or positive. So if I go ahead and run this program, I'm going to enter in a number that's not 0, and I'm going to enter -5 and hit enter. It says it's negative, right? I run it again and I say 4, I hit enter, it says the number you entered is positive. So we have this program here, and what if in our program we wanted to do this many times, right? What if we wanted to check if a number is negative or positive, let's say 10 times in our program? Well, what we can do is we can follow the mantra of write once, read many times, right? And so one way you could think of read is use. Okay. Computer programs like to use the read, but yeah, write once, use many times. Okay, this is another way you could think about it. It's easier to understand. So what are we going to do to get this done is we could turn this all into a function definition. So I could say def greater than, 2 parentheses, a colon, and then I'm going to put all of this code inside of the function definition for greater. Okay, And now that I'm in my program down here on line number 9, because remember, when we run the program, the interpreter ignores function definitions. So it's going to ignore all of this code, come down, and our program is going to start here on line number 9. So when we get here, maybe I could have some part of my program, and eventually I want to find out if a number is greater than, or ask for a number and tell them if it's greater than or less than 0, right? If it's positive or negative. Well, how can I do that? Well, I could just go ahead and call greater, right? And then if I have more part of my program here, let's put ... just to say that there's more to the program. And let's say again I wanted to call greater, right? Well, I could do it right here. And then let's say there's more to our program, and then I had a need and I needed to call greater again. Well, I call greater and we're good to go, right? So now my program is writing the function definition once, and we're using it many times, 1, 2, 3 times. Okay, so now I can go ahead and run my program, and it's going to say, oh, okay, 4. It's going to do it again. I'm going to do -2. It's going to do it again. I'm going to put in -9. And it does it again. Okay. Now, if I didn't have my function definition, well, how many lines of code would I need, right? Well, what I would need is I would need to copy this here. And let's say I didn't have my function definition. Let's say it wasn't even here. What would I do in order to have greater run that block of code is I would need to have that block of code here, right? So it runs greater. And then I want it to run here as well, so I am going to have that block of code here as well. So now it's running greater again here, and then I'm going to have it run here again. So this is the same as what we had before, because it's running the block of code that was in the greater function definition here once. It's running it again, and it's running it again. So if I go ahead and run my program, and I put in -4, I put in 9, and I put -6, and then it ends my program. You can see here in the console that the program is running exactly the same, right? It's the same program running the same set of instructions. But which program is shorter, right? Well, the first program is shorter. The function, using the function definitions lets us write less lines of code, because what we can do is we could write it once, write the block of code once, and then we can read it many times or use it many times. So function definitions let us be lazy programmers and not have programs that are extremely long, right? So I'm going to go ahead and press Command Z and go back in time, and instead of having all that, I'm going to have my function definition and then call it 3 times, right? 1, 2, and 3. So we're writing it once and we're using it many times.